meet with the GREA, any other affected collective bargaining group that we have to. But the bottom line is whichever one we choose, we have to submit a plan that, again, the Michigan Department of Education accepts. And that's what we need to be prepared to do. The turnaround one, where you replace the principal and 50% of the school staff, given, as I said before, tenure laws, no one will lose a job. So let me be real clear about that. Tenure law does not say that if you replace 50% of the staff and those people are displaced, those individuals will be placed somewhere. That's the law. Now, if someone is non-tenured, it may shake out that way. But a tenured teacher will not lose his or her job under a turnaround model. The only person who, under these models, who can lose their job, quite frankly, is the principal. So that's the law. Those are the rules we play by. So if you look at how narrow some of these choices actually are, basically what they rely upon is, it goes back to what I said before. It goes back to collective will. Now, I mean, Mr. Evans, Sibley Elementary, we have countless examples of where people have turned around their condition. So we know how to do it. But under these models, we still have to play by the state's tenure laws and our contractual obligations.
Jonathan, I'd like to chime in because I have to agree with Superintendent Taylor, because we, as my organization, we are really, really concerned, because we call this the throw the principal under the bus portion of the law, because under all of these turnaround models, the principal loses their job, and we know that that's the way that it is. And as an organization, we've said, okay, we'll take one for the team, but we also know that what are the conditions going to be? How are things going to change as a result of that, and what happens to the new principal that comes in? And so it's going to have to be very strategic. I also wanted to take, because I was first, I wanted to say, I didn't get a chance to say that I am also a product of the Grand Rapids Public Schools. Actually, I spent my childhood right on these hallowed grounds when it was Henry's Elementary School and Ottawa Hills High School graduate, as well as being the principal there. So my love for the GRPS really runs deep. I actually even came home from Lansing. So the concern that I hear is it's about collective will. As I attended our schools here, I was prepared to do anything. I was prepared to compete on the world level. And I know we can get that back again. And that's what our interest is here. And that's why I'm here today to say, and it does boil down to, doesn't matter what the model is. We need the collective will. We need to say that all of our kids are going to make it. We need to say that we're committed as a community, not just teachers, principals, educators, an entire community, that our students are going to enter the 21st century with 21st century skills and knowledge and the ability to compete globally.
Thank you. Mr. Hurry, I know you have a comment that you wanted to interject in here.
I do. First off, I do want to say thank you to Dr. Taylor for acknowledging that these issues must be bargained over by law. And just to let the community know that we actually have that first bargaining meeting scheduled for next Wednesday. I guess I'm a little concerned to hear that 2 of the 4 options are already off the table before our first meeting, but that's something I guess we'll have to deal with there. I do want to briefly touch on this idea that because there's a tenure law, somehow magically no one can ever be removed from a position. That is erroneous, okay? The tenure law was put into place to make sure that people were not removed arbitrarily or by capricious actions. The tenure law was put into place to prevent school districts from turning around and firing teachers who taught controversial ideas or ideas that were not necessarily in line with the philosophical beliefs of the local politicians or whomever. That's the purpose of the tenure law. We have an evaluation process in place. People are evaluated every year. The reality is they're evaluated by their administrators. If their administrators have found their performance to be satisfactory, then why shouldn't they continue to work in their profession? If, on the other hand, administrators have found that their performance is not satisfactory, they've actually done the job that is required of them, and it's only 2 pages long, then ultimately what takes place is you turn around, you process that individual, you go through the process, and there's a tenure hearing, and if the judge says, hey, look, or not really a judge, but if the hearing officer says, hey, look, documentation's there, that's it, you're gone. Every teacher that has gone before a tenure hearing, well, I won't say every teacher, I will say probably 98, 99% of the teachers that have gone in front of a tenure hearing in the last few years have lost their positions. Okay, Maureen Slade, who's one of the board members that we endorsed and will be coming on in July, correct me if I'm wrong, Mo, I believe you've evaluated people out.
If she's here, please raise your hand too, Ms. Slade, and acknowledge our Board of Education.
Okay. For those who couldn't hear, she said yes, she has evaluated many staff out. And frankly, this is going to dispel another idea. I'm okay with that. The teachers don't want people who can't do their job next to them all day, every day with the kids. My job is to protect the process. There's an agreed upon process. The Board of Education and the teachers have come together to agree upon a process, and that's it. Okay, so let me just put that out there.
Quickly, Mr. Elder.
Certainly, absolutely. My last observation is that Burton Middle was chosen to be here tonight because they turned their school around, and they did it using the turnaround model. And now I'm hearing that that's off the table, and that concerns me. Thank you.
Well, just as a point of clarification, the reason why the turnaround model would be difficult is because of which schools may prove to be the majority on the list. If the majority of them are high schools, remember, some of these schools are in corrective action because they still haven't made AYP for 2 consecutive years. So you can't move any of the staff. The only staff that would be eligible to be moved using the turnaround model would be the staff at City, since it is the only school that has made AYP. Now, I would dare say that if we said we were going to move the staff out of City and sprinkle it around the others and then take the staff from these schools and move them into City, I can just imagine that there would be quite a bit of concern expressed about that. So part of our problem is that, again, we're talking about 2 separate systems of accountability because these schools have not made AYP for a considerable number of years. 3 of them have only made it for the first time last year. We're still waiting results to see whether they've made it this year. Then you have this list. So you can't just move people because many of them are not eligible to be moved.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. But quickly, before...
If I can just answer the question about the models.
Okay.
And I'll be very, very brief. To answer your question, ma'am, about which model, I think it isn't something that I can personally say, this model for all schools. I think that what's necessary is to look at each individual school that may land on this list and make the determination of what's best for that school.
Thank you. You can turn.
I guess just to follow up on what Dr. Taylor said, there's a couple of questions that